Picture this, a secluded forest, where the only sounds are the gentle rustling of leaves and distant birdsong. It's in this magical setting that Ethan, a wealthy man searching for something beyond the emptiness of his fortune, crosses paths with Sarah, an artist lost in the woods and in her own life. She's scarred by a dark past, and he's burdened by the secrets of a powerful and corrupt family. Little do they know, this unlikely encounter is about to change everything. Ethan is seeking purpose, and Sarah is looking for peace. But what they're about to find is much bigger. A mystery buried deep within the forest's roots, a choice that could either save or destroy everything they care about. Bound together by fate, they must decide how far they're willing to go to protect the wilderness and themselves from a secret that's threatening to unravel. Get ready for a journey of redemption where past and present collide and nothing is as it seems. Can love and courage be enough to face the shadows chasing them? The answer lies just one step further into the forest. As I walked along the rugged trail, the towering trees of the main forest loomed above me, their leaves whispering secrets I couldn't quite decipher. The weight of my existence pressed heavily on my shoulders, despite the wealth that surrounded me. I paused, allowing the cool breeze to wash over me, a stark contrast to the suffocating expectations I faced back in the city. "What am I doing here?" I muttered under my breath, my voice barely rising above the rustle of the leaves. Forest felt alive, pulsating with an energy I hadn't felt in years. I could sense something grand, or perhaps something terrifying on the horizon, lurking just out of reach. For the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of hope mixed with apprehension. Just as I turned a corner, I spotted her. A woman sat cross-legged on the forest floor, her fingers deftly working a paintbrush against a canvas that captured the essence of this place. The vibrant colors danced across the fabric, swirling in a chaotic harmony that resonated with me. I could see the pain etched into her strokes, a silent story unfolding before my eyes. "Hey there," I called out, my curiosity piqued. "What are you painting?" She looked up, startled, green eyes wide with surprise. "Just trying to capture the beauty of this forest," she replied, her voice soft yet firm. "It's a bit of an escape for me." "I get that," I said, stepping closer. "I thought I was escaping too, but it seems I'm just as lost here as I am back home." Her gaze shifted back to her canvas, the brush pausing mid-stroke. "You've got a story, don't you? Can feel it in the air." "Aren't we all just stories waiting to be told?" I replied, a hint of bitterness creeping into my tone. "I'm Ethan, by the way." "Sarah," she introduced herself, a slight smile breaking through her initial apprehension. "So, what brings you to the woods?" "Honestly, I needed to get away from everything. Pressure of my family's expectations, it's suffocating." I hesitated, feeling a strange urge to open up. "Sometimes I wonder if all this," I gestured vaguely to the world beyond the trees, "worth it." "I know that feeling too well," Dara said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Art is my escape, but it also reminds me of everything I've tried to forget." "What do you mean?" I asked, intrigued by her vulnerability. She hesitated, and I could see the shadow of something painful flicker across her expression. "Just past relationships, you know? They leave scars that don't easily fade." "Yeah, I can relate," I confessed, my heart thumping louder in my chest. "It's like wearing a mask all the time, pretending everything's fine when it's not." Our eyes met, and for a moment, the world around us faded away. It was as if we were two souls adrift in a vast ocean, drawn together by the currents of our shared pain. "What if we took off our masks for a while?" I suggested, my voice barely above a whisper. She raised an eyebrow, a hint of challenge in her gaze. "Are you sure you're ready for that? It's not easy to share your truth." "I'm tired of hiding," I admitted, the words spilling out before I could catch them. "Maybe we could start with something simple." "What's your dream?" Her face brightened, the shadows retreating momentarily. "I want to exhibit my art, to show the world not just the beauty of nature, but also the stories behind the colors." "That's beautiful," I said, genuinely impressed. "You should go for it. I can see how passionate you are." "Thanks," she replied, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. "What about you? What do you want?" I took a deep breath, the weight of my reality pressing down on me as I contemplated my answer. "I want to find a purpose beyond what's been handed to me, something that's truly mine." Then maybe you should start here, Sarah suggested, gesturing to the forest around us. There's a magic in this place that might lead you to it. Maybe you're right, I said, feeling an unexpected warmth spread through me. It's strange how just meeting you makes me feel lighter. Maybe we both needed this encounter, she mused, her gaze drifting back to her canvas. As we stood together in the heart of the forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that our meeting was more than just a coincidence. Something larger was at play, a force pulling us together amidst the tangled roots and vibrant colors, and I was ready to see where it would lead us both. As I stood there, paintbrush in hand, I could feel the vibrant energy of the forest surrounding me. The dappled sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting a warm glow on my canvas as I tried to capture the essence of the scene before me. My heart raced with each stroke, but I felt a familiar weight pressing down on my chest, a reminder of the shadows lurking in my past. "Your work is beautiful," a voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned to see Ethan standing a few feet away, his gaze fixed on my painting. There was a certain intensity in his eyes that made me both nervous and curious. "Thank you," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's a reflection of what I feel in this place. It's freeing." He stepped closer, his expression softening. "I can see that. It's like you're pouring your heart into the canvas." A flicker of warmth spread through me, and I felt the urge to share more. "Art has always been my escape," I admitted, "but it's also a reminder of everything I've been through. It's complicated." Ethan nodded, his brow furrowing slightly. "I get that. I think we all have our battles. Sometimes I feel like I'm just going through the motions, trapped in a life that's not really mine." "Trapped?" I echoed, intrigued. "You're a millionaire. You have everything." He let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head. "You'd be surprised how lonely it can be at the top. Everyone expects you to be perfect, follow the family legacy. Suffocating." I felt a strange sense of kinship with him, as if we were both navigating our own storms. "You're not alone, you know. We all carry our burdens." "Yeah," he replied, his voice low. "Sometimes I wonder if anyone would even care if I tried to break free." "Maybe they would," I said softly. "You just have to find the courage to be yourself." We shared a moment of silence, the air thick with unspoken understanding. I glanced at my painting, the colors swirling together like the complex emotions swirling within us. "I dream of exhibiting my work one day," Fest, my voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm terrified of what people will think. I'm not sure if I'm ready to face my past in front of an audience." Ethan's eyes sparkled with encouragement. "You should go for it. You have a gift, Sarah. Don't let fear hold you back." His words ignited something in me. "You really think so?" "I know so," he affirmed, his expression earnest. "You have a spirit that deserves to be seen. Just like you see the beauty in this forest, you should let others see the beauty in your art." As he spoke, I felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps I could find the strength to overcome my fears, to break free from the shadows of my past. "What about you?" I asked, tilting my head. "What makes you feel alive?" Ethan hesitated, studying the ground for a moment before meeting my gaze. "Honestly, I feel alive when I'm out here, away from everything. But there's this weight on my shoulders, the expectations of my family. I can't help but feel like I'm living someone else's life." "I understand that," I said, my heart aching for him. "It's hard to break free from what others expect of us." He sighed deeply, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "But maybe we can help each other find that courage." "Help each other?" I echoed, a mixture of excitement and anxiety bubbling within me. "Yeah," he replied, tentative smile breaking through. "Maybe I can help you find your voice, and you can help me find mine." It's a scary thought, but it feels right. I couldn't help but smile back at him. I'd like that. But then, conversation took a turn. "There's something you should know," I started cautiously, my heart racing at the thought of revealing the shadow that loomed over me. "I heard some rumors about your family, something that could ruin your reputation." Ethan's face paled. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath, trying to gauge his reaction. "There are whispers about your father's business dealing. It's not just about the expansion. It sounds like there's something more sinister going on." His expression shifted, tension creeping back into his posture. "What did you hear?" "I don't want to gossip," I stammered, suddenly feeling the weight of the secret I was about to share. I just think you should be careful. People might not be who they seem. Are you saying I can't trust my own family? He asked, his voice strained. I don't know, Ethan, I replied, feeling the shift in our dynamic. I just want you to be aware. He looked away, processing my words. I could sense the turmoil within him, and I wondered if I had crossed a line. The connection we had started to build felt fragile, and I feared that I had just shattered it. As I stood in the dappled sunlight filtering through the towering trees, I couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was happening between Sarah and me. We had just spent the afternoon wandering through the enchanting forest, sharing fragments of our lives, and for the first time in years, I felt a connection that reached deep into my soul. Ethan, Sarah said softly, her voice almost drowned out by the rustling leaves overhead. Do you ever feel like you're living someone else's life? Her question hung in the air, and I turned to face her, captivated by the sincerity in her eyes. All the time, I admitted, my heart racing. I mean, I'm a millionaire, but it feels like a costume I wear for the world. Inside, I'm just tired of pretending to be someone I'm not. She nodded, a sad smile flickering across her lips. That's how I felt in my last relationship. I lost myself trying to be what he wanted. It took so long to find my way back. I could see the pain etched on her face, a shadow that lingered even in the light of the forest. I'm sorry, Sarah. Can't imagine what you went through. Her gaze dropped to the ground, and I watched as she picked at a blade of grass. It's just, trust is hard for me now. I don't know if I can let anyone in again. Believe me, I get it, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I feel so lonely despite having everything. It's like I'm drowning in expectations. My family, my name, it's all a heavy weight. Your family? She looked up, curiosity replacing some of the sadness. What's that like? I hesitated, a familiar knot tightening in my stomach. They expect me to step into my father's shoes, to take over the business, but it's not what I want. I want to explore, to create, to live. Then why don't you? He asked, her eyes sparkling with an intensity that both scared and excited me. Because it's not that simple, I replied, running a hand through my hair in frustration. I feel trapped. Every time I think about breaking away, I remember how disappointed they'd be, how it would reflect on my family name. I think you owe it to yourself to find out what you really want, Sarah urged, her voice steady. You deserve to be happy, Ethan. We both do. Her words struck a chord deep within me. Just then, a sudden rustle in the bushes caught my attention, and my heart raced. Did you hear that? I asked, scanning the underbrush. Probably just a deer, she said, but I could see the tension in her shoulders, or maybe something more sinister. We shared a nervous laugh, but beneath the humor, I sensed an unspoken acknowledgement of our fears. You know, Sarah, I said, breaking the silence that enveloped us, I've been thinking about that secret you mentioned, the one about my family. She stiffened, her eyes narrowing. What about it? I don't want you to feel like you can't trust me, I said, my voice earnest. I want to understand it. I want to know what you heard. Ethan, she said, her tone cautious, I don't want to bring you trouble. If you're not ready to face it, maybe it's better to leave it buried. No, I insisted, stepping closer, our eyes locking. I need to know. I want to know everything, including the parts that might break me. Okay, she sighed, brushing a stray hair behind her ear. I heard that your family's plans could harm the forest. The expansion, the construction, it could ruin everything. My heart sank. I had no idea, I murmured, feeling the weight of her words. I thought it was just about profit. I didn't think about the consequences. It's not just about the trees, Ethan. It's about lives, homes, the ecosystem, she said passionately. This place is special to me, and if your family is behind it, I'll find a way to stop it, I interrupted, the determination rising within me. I swear, I won't let them destroy this place. Sarah searched my eyes, and for a fleeting moment, I saw a glimmer of hope reflected back at me. You mean it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I do, I replied, my heart racing as I took her hand. We'll figure this out together. In that moment, standing in the heart of the forest, I felt an unbreakable bond forming between us. It was more than just our shared fears. It was a promise to fight for what mattered. Not just for ourselves, for the world around us. As I stood amidst the towering trees of the main forest, the sunlight filtering through the leaves created a lush tapestry of greens and golds. I felt a sense of tranquility wash over me, but it was quickly overshadowed by the turmoil brewing within. The air was thick with unspoken tension, and I knew it was time to confront Ethan about something that was tearing me apart inside. "Sarah," Ethan said, his voice low as he kicked a pebble at his feet. "I can't help but feel that we're on different pages right now. You seem distant." I took a deep breath, my heart racing as I forced myself to meet his gaze. I had come to care for him more than I ever thought possible, but the shadows of my past loomed large. "Ethan, there's something I need to tell you." His brow furrowed, concern etched across his handsome features. "What is it? You know you can trust me." I hesitated, the words catching in my throat like a thorn. "It's about your family, the expansion project. I've heard things." He stiffened, his posture shifting as he crossed his arms over his chest. "What have you heard?" The tension in his voice was palpable, and I could see the wheels turning in his mind. I swallowed hard, the weight of my revelation pressing down on me. "There are whispers that the land your family plans to develop is home to endangered species, Ethan. They go through with this, it could destroy the ecosystem. It's not just a piece of land, it's a sanctuary." His eyes darkened, and I could see the conflict raging within him. "But my family has always been involved in real estate. This is just business, right? We have to think about the future." "Business? At what cost?" I felt my voice rising, frustration bubbling to the surface. "Your future cannot come at the expense of this beautiful place. These trees, this wildlife, they deserve to be protected." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, his expression a mixture of frustration and confusion. "You don't understand what it's like to carry that weight. My father expects me to follow in his footsteps. If I challenge him, I risk everything." "Everything?" I echoed. "What about it, incredulous? The people who rely on this forest, what about the lives that will be devastated?" The words spilled out of me, fueled by my passion for art and nature, and the scars of my past that made me fight so fiercely. He looked away, his jaw clenched. I can't disappoint him. You have no idea what that's like." I stepped closer, reaching for his arm, desperate to connect despite the divide growing between us. "Ethan, I know disappointment. I've faced it too many times, but it's not just about you, it's about all of us. You have the power to make a difference. Don't you see that?" He met my gaze, and for a moment the storm in his eyes seemed to calm. "You make it sound so simple. I wish it were." "Can be simple," I urged. "You just have to choose to fight for what's right. I believe in you." He sighed deeply, the weight of the world visibly pressing down on his shoulders. "What if I'm torn? What if I can't find the courage to stand up against my family?" "Then we'll find it together," I said softly, my heart racing at the thought of us uniting for a cause greater than ourselves. "You don't have to face this alone." Silence enveloped us, the sound of rustling leaves filling the void. I could sense the battle within him, pull between loyalty and righteousness. It mirrored my own struggles, the scars of my past whispering doubts in my ear. Finally, Ethan spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I need time to think." "Take all the time you need," I replied, my heart sinking at the thought of him stepping back. "But please, don't take too long. Clock is ticking." As I turned to walk away, I felt a surge of hope mixed with despair. I wanted so desperately for him to understand, to see the beauty in fighting for this land, us. But I also knew the road ahead was fraught with challenges, and my heart ached at the uncertainty of our future. The dawn painted the forest in hues of gold and soft lavender, a palette so striking that I felt as if I were standing in the middle of a living canvas. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of damp earth and pine, and there was a serene stillness, broken only by the gentle rustling of leaves. I had come here to think, to reflect on the tumultuous events of the previous day, but instead, I found myself drawn into the beauty surrounding me. As I walked deeper into the woods, I spotted Ethan sitting on a fallen log, his head in his hands. The weight of the world seemed to press down on his shoulders, and for a moment I hesitated. Would he want to see me after the argument we had? But something compelled me to approach him. I took a deep breath, crossed the threshold of uncertainty, and sat beside him. "Hey," I said softly, trying to break the silence. Mind if I join you? He looked up, his blue eyes reflecting the morning light, a mixture of relief and sadness washing over his face. I'd be a fool to say no, he replied, managing a faint smile. I could use the company. We sat in silence for a moment, tension from our last encounter still lingering like a cloud overhead. I sensed that we were both grappling with our feeling, unsure of how to bridge the gap that had formed between us. Finally, I decided to confront the elephant in the room. Ethan, about yesterday. I started, my voice barely above a whisper. Sighed, running a hand through his tousled hair. I know. I shouldn't have tried to justify my family's action. Just, it's complicated. Get that, I replied, trying to keep my tone gentle. But you have to understand how much this forest means to me. It's not just a piece of land, it's a sanctuary, place where I can escape my past. I know, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I never wanted to hurt you. I feel this pressure to uphold my family's legacy. But I also know that what they're doing isn't right. His vulnerability struck a chord in me. I could see the internal struggle he faced, mirroring my own battles with trust and fear. Ethan, we can't let them destroy this place, I urged, my passion igniting. If we join forces, we might stand a chance of saving it. He looked at me, his expression shifting from uncertainty to determination. You really think we can make a difference? He asked, hope flickering in his eyes. Absolutely, I said, feeling a surge of excitement. Your influence could help raise awareness, and I can use my art to mobilize the community. Together, we can be a voice for the forest. Ethan paused, considering my words. I want to help. I'm willing to confront my family, to dig deeper into their plans, but I need you by my side. Then let's do it, I replied, the electricity in the air palpable. Let's fight for what's right. As we spoke, I could feel the walls between us beginning to crumble, replaced by a shared sense of purpose. The idea of uniting our strengths filled me with renewed hope. Plus, I added with a teasing grin, I might need some backup if things get heated at the next community meeting. Ethan chuckled, the sound a welcome relief. I'll be there, ready to back you up. Just promise me you won't paint me as the villain if I slip up. Deal? I laughed, feeling lighter, but you'll have to earn my trust back, you know. Fair enough, he said, his tone turning serious again. I'll do whatever it takes, Sarah, I promise. I reached into my bag and pulled out a painting I had been working on, a vibrant depiction of the forest bathed in sunlight. Here, I said, handing it to him. This symbolizes everything we're fighting for, the beauty and life that need protection. Ethan took the canvas, his eyes widening as he studied my work. It's incredible, breathed, emotion flooding his voice. You've captured its spirit. Just like you've captured mine, I replied, a warmth blossoming in my chest. Let this be a reminder of why we're doing this. As he held the painting, I saw a flicker of determination ignite in him. Together, we're going to make a difference, Sarah. I won't let you down. In that moment, I felt a surge of hope. We were two broken souls, drawn together by a shared love for the forest and a desire to heal. As we stood up to leave, I knew this was just the beginning of our journey, one that would test our strength, challenge our beliefs, and ultimately transform us both. As days turned into weeks, I found myself drawn deeper into the woods, not just by the beauty of the towering trees and the rustling leaves, but by Sarah. Each moment spent with her felt like a revelation, an awakening from the numbness that had enveloped my life for so long. We shared laughter that echoed through the forest, weaving a tapestry of connection that I never anticipated. One morning, as the sun filtered through the foliage, casting dappled shadows on the forest floor, I watched Sarah paint. She was lost in her world, her brush dancing with vibrant strokes across the canvas. The colors seemed to emerge from her very soul, capturing the essence of the landscape around us. It was as if she was pouring her heart onto the canvas. I couldn't help but admire the way she transformed her pain into beauty. Ethan, Sarah called, breaking my reverie as she stepped back to examine her work. What do you think? I stepped closer, squinting at the canvas. It's incredible, Sarah. It's like it's alive. The way you blend the colors, it's as if the forest is speaking through your art. She smiled, a hint of vulnerability in her eyes. It's my way of coping, you know? Every stroke is a piece of my story, piece of me. Get that, I replied, feeling a weight settle in my chest. I've been struggling to find my own story lately. She tilted her head, curiosity sparking in her gaze. What do you mean? You have everything. Money, a family name, success. What's missing? I hesitated, the words caught in my throat. I thought those things meant happiness, but it's all just noise. I feel more lost than ever. Dara stepped closer, and for a moment the world around us faded. You're not alone in that, Ethan. I've been lost too, fighting my own demons. In that moment, I felt an undeniable connection, a shared understanding that transcended our differences. We were two souls navigating the storms of our lives, seeking refuge in each other. I wanted to tell her everything, the pressure from my family, the expectations that loomed over me like shadows, but I hesitated. Just then, Sarah broke the silence, her voice soft, firm. You don't have to carry that burden alone. We can face our fears together. Her words resonated deep within me, igniting a flicker of hope. Do you really believe that? I do, she said, her eyes shining with sincerity. But it takes courage. We both need to be brave. As the days passed, our bond grew stronger. We exchanged stories over campfires, our laughter mingling with the crackling flames. I learned about her past, the relationships that had left scars, the moments of beauty that had slipped through her fingers. She listened intently as I shared my own struggles, the weight of expectation that suffocated me. One afternoon, as we sat by a shimmering lake, I turned to her, my heart racing. Sarah, I've been thinking, maybe we could do something together. Something that matters. She looked at me, a spark of intrigue in her eyes. What do you have in mind? I want to use my resources to help protect this forest, show my family that there's more to life than just profit. We could raise awareness, organize events, we could fight for what's right. A smile broke across her face, illuminating her features. I love that idea, but it won't be easy. Are you ready for that? I took a deep breath, the weight of my commitment settling in. I think I am. With you by my side, I feel like I can finally make a difference. Then let's do it, she said, her voice steady. Let's fight for this place and for the people who love it. As we shared a moment of understanding, I knew we were standing on the precipice of something monumental, a shared mission, a common purpose. And in that moment, I felt a warmth blossoming in my chest, feeling I hadn't felt in a long time. Together, I whispered, and she nodded, her eyes glimmering with hope. But beneath the surface, I felt a flicker of fear. What if I couldn't live up to this promise? What if I failed her? The thought lingered, but I pushed it aside, focusing instead on the path ahead. We were ready to confront our pasts and face the future, hand in hand, and that made all the difference. As leaves crunched under my feet as I walked deeper into the woods, familiar scent of pine enveloping me like a long-lost friend. I was trying to push away the haunting thoughts of Ethan. Our last conversation replayed in my mind like an incessant loop. His confession about knowing my secret, how he had found out, and the hurt that radiated from me like a beacon. I had finally let my guard down. Now I was left with the familiar sting of betrayal. Sarah, wait. I heard Ethan's voice behind me, laced with desperation. I stopped, my back to him, heart pounding with conflict. Part of me wanted to turn around to face him, to demand answers, while another part screamed for me to keep walking, to put distance between us. Why? I replied, my voice steady, though my insides twisted with emotion. You already know everything, Ethan. What more is there to say? I didn't mean to find out like that. I thought, began, but I cut him off. You thought what? That you could just know my past and act like it didn't matter? That we could just forget it and move on? I felt my emotions bubbling up, threatening to spill over. You have no idea what it's like to live in the shadows, Ethan. I can't just ignore the pain because you decided to play the hero. There was a pause, and I could almost hear the gears turning in his head. I know I messed up, but you have to understand I was trying to protect you. I thought you'd shut me out if I brought it up. Protect me? I scoffed, turning to finally face him. You think knowing the truth about me is a way to protect me? Or is it just a way to save your own conscience? His expression shifted, a mixture of frustration and regret. I can't change the past, Sarah, but I can stand beside you. I want to help you heal, but I need you to trust me. Trust. The word hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I wanted to trust him. I really did. but the scars from my past were still fresh, still raw. "You don't get to decide how I feel," I said quietly, my voice trembling. "You don't understand what you're asking of me." "I know I don't," he admitted, his voice softening. "But I'm willing to learn. I want to understand you. I want to fight for what's right, together." As I looked into his eyes, I saw sincerity, but I also saw the weight of his family's expectations, pressure that had been building ever since I met him. "What about your family, Ethan? Your father is already starting the plans for the development. Are you even willing to challenge him?" He hesitated, and I felt my heart sink. He started, but before he could finish, the sound of footsteps echoed through the clearing. A group of locals approached, and I braced myself for the inevitable confrontation that was coming. "Sarah!" "Ethan!" one of the men called out, his face a mix of concern and urgency. "Have you heard? There's a community meeting tonight about the development. We need all hands on deck." Ethan's expression hardened, and I could see the internal struggle play out in front of me. "I'll be there," he said, his voice steady but lacking the enthusiasm I had hoped for. "We need to voice our concerns." I turned to him, my heart racing. "You're going to confront your father, aren't you?" He nodded, determination setting in. "I can't let him destroy everything we've come to love. Not after this. Ethan, it's not just about confronting him. It's about taking a stand for what's right," I urged, feeling the weight of the moment. "You need to be ready for the consequence." "I know," he said, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "But I can't let fear dictate my choices anymore. Not when it comes to you. Not when it comes to this." As the locals gathered around us, discussing strategies for the meeting, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could face this together. But as I glanced at Ethan, the man who had suddenly become so vital to my existence, I couldn't shake the nagging fear that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. Would his courage hold? Would mine? Only time would tell. I stood at the podium, my heart racing as I faced the sea of reporters and community members gathered in the town hall. The air felt electric, charged with anticipation, and my palms were clammy against the polished wood of the microphone. I had finally made my decision, one that I knew would change everything. Not just for me, but for Sarah, Forrest, for the community. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil within. "Thank you for coming today. I have something important to share with you regarding my family's plans for the forest." I glanced around the room, catching the concerned faces of my neighbors and friends. What I'm about to disclose is not only about business, it's about the very essence of our community and our responsibility toward nature. As I spoke, I could see my father in the back, his face a mask of anger and disbelief. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his gaze, but I pressed on. "I've discovered that the expansion project led by my family is rooted in corruption. Plans that would devastate this land, harming not only the wildlife, but also the very spirit of our community." Murmurs rippled through the audience, and I could see eyes widening in shock. "This isn't just about profit for a few," I continued, my passion igniting. "This is about preserving our heritage, our home. We can't allow greed to dictate our future." "Ethan, think about what you're doing," my father shouted, his voice booming over the crowd. "You're jeopardizing everything we've worked for." "Everything you've worked for, maybe," I shot back, fury bubbling to the surface. "But what about the future? What about the legacy we leave behind? You're so blinded by your ambition that you can't see the destruction in front of us." The room erupted into chaos as people began to voice their opinions, some supporting me, others siding with my father. I felt a surge of adrenaline, the thrill of standing up for what was right fueling my resolve. "We need to stand together to protect this land," I insisted, raising my voice to be heard above the clamor. "I'm asking you all to join me in this fight." As the meeting progressed, I caught glimpses of Sarah in the crowd. She stood near the back, her expression a mix of admiration and apprehension. My heart ached. I wished she could see how much I wanted to prove myself to her, to show her that I was serious about making a change. After the meeting concluded, I rushed outside, hoping to find her before she slipped away. My heart sank when I saw her walking briskly toward her car, her eyes focused ahead as if she were trying to escape. "Sarah," I called, desperation creeping into my voice. She turned slowly, her expression unreadable. "Ethan, I don't know if I can do this," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "You stood up to your father, and that's incredible. But I'm still scared. What if you change your mind?" I stepped closer, closing the distance between us. "I won't change my mind. I promise you. This is just the beginning. I'm committed to protecting this forest and everything it represents. For you, for us." "Words are easy, Ethan," she replied, shaking her head. "I need to see that you mean it. I can't go through another betrayal." "I understand. I do," I said, my voice softening. "But you have to believe me. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about all of us, about the community and the beauty of this place we both love." She studied me for a long moment, and I could see the conflict in her eyes. "I want to believe you, but—" "No buts, just let me show you," I urged, reaching out for her hand. "I won't let you down. I want to fight for this together." As she hesitated, I felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps I could prove to her that my intentions were true, that I was not just a product of my family's legacy, but someone who could forge his own path. Wandering through the forest, my thoughts were a tangled mess. The towering trees loomed above me, their leaves rustling softly in the breeze, whispering secrets I longed to understand. I felt an overwhelming emptiness inside, a void that seemed to echo the distance I had created between myself and Sarah. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the brink of something monumental, yet I was lost in the shadows of my own choices. As I walked, my gaze fell upon a familiar sight. A canvas propped against a tree, vibrant colors splashed across it. It was Sarah's painting, the one she had worked on the day we'd shared our dreams and fears. I approached it slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. The colors danced under the dappled sunlight, but it was the emotion captured in every brushstroke that gripped me. She had poured her soul into this piece, and in it, I saw a reflection of her pain, her strength, and the beauty she saw in the world. Something I was desperately trying to find for myself. "Ethan?" Her voice broke through my reverie, and I turned to see her standing a few paces away, her expression a mixture of surprise and hesitation. "What are you doing here?" "I was just thinking," I replied, my gaze drifting back to the painting. "This is incredible, Sarah. It's like you've captured everything you feel in this one piece." She stepped closer, her eyes searching mine. "You really think so?" "Absolutely," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "It's beautiful, but it's also heartbreaking. It's like you've laid your soul bare for the world to see." A silence hung between us, heavy with unspoken words. I could see the walls she had built around herself starting to crack, and I wanted nothing more than to reach through those cracks and hold her close. "I miss you," I confessed, the vulnerability in my voice surprising even me. "I miss you too," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But after everything, and we really go back to what we had?" "I don't know," I replied honestly, "but I do know that I'm here because of you. You've inspired me to see beyond the facade of my life, confront the truth about my family and myself." I paused, gathering the courage to speak the words that had been lodged in my throat. "You're the reason I'm fighting to change things, Sarah." Tears glistened in her eyes as she took a step closer, the distance between us shrinking. "I want to believe that, Ethan, but it's hard for me to trust again. I've been hurt before." "I understand," I said, my heart aching for her struggle. "But I'm not asking for your trust without proving myself first. I want to show you that I can be different, that I want to be different." She looked down at the ground, biting her lip as if processing my words. "What if this is just a phase for you? What if you change your mind once the dust settles? Then you have every right to walk away," I said firmly. "But I need you to know that this isn't just about me. It's about us. You've awakened something in me that I thought was long gone. A desire to fight for what's right, to protect what I love." Her eyes met mine, and in that moment, I saw a flicker of hope. "You really mean that?" "More than anything," I replied, taking a step forward. "I want to fight for this forest, for your art, and for us. I want to be someone you can believe in." As we stood there, surrounded by the ancient trees and the vibrant colors of her painting, I felt a shift in the air, an unspoken agreement that we were both willing to take a step forward, despite the uncertainty looming over us. We were two souls intertwined in a battle against our pasts, fighting for a future that felt just within reach. "I'll help you with your plans for the preservation," she finally said, a small smile breaking through her apprehension. "But I need to see action, Ethan. Words won't be enough." "Then let's make them count," I said, my heart racing. "Together, we'll show everyone what this place means to us." As we stood side by side, the forest around us felt alive, filled with possibilities. I could see the path ahead, illuminated by our shared determination, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a spark of hope igniting within me. As I stood in the gallery, the vibrant colors of Sarah's paintings swirled around me like the emotions I could no longer contain. The crowd was buzzing with excitement, but all I could focus on was the woman who poured her heart into each stroke of her brush. I felt the weight of the moment pressing down on me, urging me to confront the truth I had been avoiding. I had to find her. When I finally spotted Sarah, she was surrounded by admirers, discussing her work with a fervor I had never seen before. It filled me with pride, yet the thought of how I had hurt her gnawed at my inside. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I needed to say. "Sarah," I called out, my voice barely rising above the chatter. She turned, her eyes widening in surprise. As the crowd parted, I saw the confusion and wariness etched on her face. "Ethan," she said, tone guarded. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see you, to see your art," I responded, my heart racing. "But more than that, I need to talk. Can we step outside?" After a moment of hesitation, she nodded, and we made our way to a quieter corner of the gallery. The ambient noise faded, replaced by the soft sounds of our footsteps. I could feel the tension between us, thick and palpable. "Ethan, she started, but I cut her off, desperate to get my words out. "Before you say anything, just hear me out, okay?" I pleaded, looking into her eyes. "I know I've messed up. I betrayed your trust, and I can't undo that. But I need you to understand something. What I did at the press conference wasn't just about defying my family. It was about doing what I believed was right. It was about you." Her expression softened slightly, but doubt lingered in her gaze. "How can I trust that this isn't another attempt to redeem yourself? You have to show me, Ethan. Words aren't enough anymore." I stepped closer, the urgency of my feelings pouring out. "I love you, Sarah. I've loved you since the moment we met. You opened my eyes to a world I was too blind to see. I want to fight for you, us, and for this forest. I want my actions to prove that I'm serious about making a change." She took a deep breath, her vulnerability shining through. "I love you too, Ethan. But love isn't just about what we feel, it's about what we do. I need to see you fight for more than just me. I need to see you fight for what's right." As I looked into her eyes, I realized that she was right. This was bigger than just us. It was about the future of the forest we had both grown to cherish. "Then let's do it together," I said, feeling a surge of determination. "We'll unite the community, raise awareness, and protect this land. We can't let my family's greed destroy what we've come to love." The spark of hope ignited in her eyes, and I could see her walls starting to crumble. "You really mean it?" she asked, her voice trembling with emotion. "I do," I assured her. "I promise I'll fight for this place, for you, and for our future." With a resolve I hadn't felt in years, we exchanged a long, meaningful gaze, and I reached out to hold her hands. "Let's present a plan at the preservation event tomorrow," I suggested. "We can show everyone what we stand for." A smile broke through her uncertainty, and I felt the warmth of our connection returning. "Together," she echoed, squeezing my hands tightly. "I can work on more paintings that represent our fight, and we can gather support from the community. This time, we'll do it right." As we shared that moment of renewed commitment, a wave of relief washed over me. I knew the road ahead would be challenging, but with Laura by my side, I felt ready to face anything. The next day, as we stepped onto the stage at the preservation event, I could see the crowd before us, a mix of familiar faces and strangers, all united by a common cause. I felt Laura's hand in mine, anchoring me as I prepared to share our vision. "Thank you all for being here," I began, my voice steady yet filled with emotion. "We stand here not just as individuals, but as a community that believes in the beauty and sanctity of our forest. Together, we can create a future where nature thrives, and our children can enjoy the wonders we've come to love." Sarah stepped forward, her voice strong and passionate. Art has the power to inspire change. Each piece I create reflects the struggle and beauty of this land. We must fight to protect it, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come. As the crowd erupted in applause, I realized that this was just the beginning. Together, we would face the challenges ahead, fighting for what was right and cherishing the love that had blossomed amidst our struggles. In that moment, surrounded by the vibrant energy of the community and the beauty of the forest behind us, I knew we had found our purpose. Wow, that was intense, right? But Jake's journey is just getting started. Just imagine, your whole life gets flipped upside down with a few simple words. What would you do if you found out the person you call mom isn't who you thought? In the last video, Jake starts digging up family secrets that could change everything. Curious to see what he discovers? Click on the video on your screen now and get ready for some jaw-dropping revelations that you won't believe.